Anyway, here is the proofs. So calibration is at the start of this stream. Difficulty level 1, ring con calibration 40. Like I said, leg strap is at the start. And then we're playing on regular mode, not silent mode. So, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Beginning again. What are your thoughts about this while I try to concentrate on the run?
那走吧，前面有门，先去那里一趟吧。没错，可以发射空气炮，好好记住哟。
You have no thoughts.
也可以朝向左右。
Only emotions. What are your emotions on this? How do you feel? What do you think
注意瞄准时，
needs to fit?
向我朝下的话就能不减哦。
What do you think is required to fix Amguard?
这么大。哦，有高低差呢，将我朝下推压试试看。
Unfixable. Got it.
很好。投击的话，抬高大腿就会更好爬哦。OK。
Unfixable but. They're good lads and ladies who are trying. I think it's fixable.
啊，等一下，将我左右拉开的话就能行了。前进吧。终点，来吧，用胜利姿势将做完的运动转变为经验值吧。缓缓蹲下。
I think we are genuinely doing it the right way. I don't think Amguard has ever had a proper research thing done for it to this degree. I don't think anyone has ever built it with the love that we are doing. I agree with you 100%. Your opinion, I think, is exactly what we need to do. And I've been basically brainstorming a lot of ways where I can do that kind of sneakily, so people don't realize that it's become simpler, right? Force multipliers, keywords, basically trying to get things so people feel like they still have that depth. But fixing the processing, right? I definitely think we need to get rid of a lot of magic. Here's a question I have for you about armor max values. So, a lot of people who talk about bringing back armor max values, one of the counterpoints is that the amount of time it takes to drumroll someone, right? And you know, obviously warriors have brought this up. It's like how long it takes. Stand by. How long it takes to actively kill someone in armor. How much armor protects you from being... Wow, I didn't kill a guy one hit. From being, you know, just someone comes up to you and starts whacking, right? The difference between, let's say, max 6 and max 3, right, is a decent amount of reaction time. And that's kind of a valid point, keeping the armor values at 6, in my opinion. Also, lowering the armor values kind of also messes up with any of the rating systems we have, and I think it ends up making it a little too different from what people are used to. And that may be something that, like, for example, V10 could do, is further simplify it. But I think right now, 6 feels like, with what our changes are going to be to the actual armor construction, the argument is that 6 currently is that 6 gives people more time to react than, let's say, 3 or 4 would, right? To a drum roll. So they feel like they're getting proper protection from someone running up and just hitting them from behind. Part of the problem is when it comes to stuff like people trying to compare, okay, I gotta make sure I gotta get this first XP. Let me just get to Drago, then I'll talk. Or I guess just be here. People compare people like to compare their armor durability to real life, right? And how good they think armor should be real life. Right? I agree anyone could be backstabbed, and I think that drum rolling in certain ways is probably the best representation of backstabbing in this game. It's probably the best representation of backstabbing in this game, because putting in an actual backstab ability, right, would require us to define, like, what is behind, right? If I'm sneaking up on someone to do my, one-hit kill backstab move, and they spin around and I glance the back of their shoulder, right, did I get the backstab? Right? Whereas drum rolling is more organic, right? If I can sneak up on you and hit you 20,000 times, right, then that's a successful backstab. So on that end, I agree with you. But the argument is still that they feel they'd like more protection from a flurry of hits, right? And I don't know if that's completely unfounded or completely wrong at this point. One of the things we're going to be testing for our playtest at some point is asking people to play V8 with max armor values without any actual phys rep. So if you're playing warrior, you get 4 points everywhere. Right? You don't have to wear anything. If you're playing barbar, you get 3 points everywhere. If you're playing assassin, you get 2 points everywhere. You don't have to wear anything. And from that, we'll be able to see how strong or weak armor actually is in the game. Apparently the test was done at the start of V8, but this was like before even the magic rules were put in, and no one really knew how to fight armor properly, so they said armor was very dominating. I do think 4 is doable. 4, I think, is the lowest we can go because of how we have to categorize armor, right? If we do 4, hold on, let me make sure I hit my my split here. Come on. We're behind. So if we do 4 would let us have the armor divided into like flexible organic, rigid organic, flexible metal, rigid metal. That's it. Right? And then we just have to define the difference between flexible and rigid. Right? And that's it. The problem with the armor crafting thing is we have this weird survivor bias where a lot of the people who stayed in the game for armor are armor crafters, right? Because the game is so much more favorable to you as an armor wearer if you make your own armor. It is way more accessible. Most people who can't make their own armor won't play an armor class, right? Unless they have to have a friend who can do it for them, right? Unless it's there. So they are biased towards getting bonuses for their armor looking good. Jump this one. No! Okay, we still got it. Sorry, just let me wait to get into the next fight that's coming up here. So, cool. It is, yes, 100%. I recently watched an article for a game design lecture by Mark Rosewater, one of the lead guys on Magic the Gathering, and I watched that lecture because it's coming from a game that has evolved over a long period of time, decades. Right? Much like Amgar. You can't really watch a lot of video game lectures like this because because they don't have enough, like, they're designing the game once and then, you know, it lasts for however many years it lasts and then they make, you know, part 2 or part 3. Whereas Magic the Gathering is using this ongoing rule set that it has to continue to use and continue to adapt within those rules, right? So looking at how they've done it and their decisions, and one of the things that he said was, it's better to have a lot of options that are polarizing when it comes to the choice side of things and universal mechanics. Sorry, let me rephrase this. I'm half focusing on the speed run. Make sure I hit this box. Get here. He basically said, when you're making options for people to choose between, you want there to be choice, and you want there to be stuff that people love, right? So it doesn't matter if people hate it, you just want people to love it. Not like it, love it, right? But when it comes to your universal mechanics, stuff that everyone needs to interact with, those, it's better to be more, you know, satisfying, right? I want people to love certain classes, right? I want people to find their 1 or 2 classes that they're like, I love playing this way, and that's how they're going to experience Amgar, right? And it doesn't matter if you hate Archer, you don't have to play Archer. But, right, same with armor. You don't have to wear armor. But, armor is still very widespread amongst all the other classes, meaning you're likely going to run into armor. And I think that every class should actually have access to armor. Every single class should be able to wear at least 1 point. I think wizards, healers, druids, all of that should at least be able to wear 1 point of armor. And if that's the way we want to go, then now all of a sudden armor is a universal mechanic. And so we can't make it so it's like, oh well, either you like heavy armor or you don't, right? We can still make it so heavy armor is a thing and a choice, but the lower tiers needs to be something that is enjoyable and hold on. Fighting against armor needs to be easy. That's, I think, the biggest thing. Because no matter what you choose to play as, you're going to have to fight against armor. Right? So the system can't be complex and convoluted when you're trying to figure out, well, how much armor does that guy have? Right? Cool. Same thing with stuff like arrows or projectiles or enchantments and all of that kind of stuff, right? The actual, what the enchantments do doesn't necessarily need to be, like how you purchase them, how you cast them. That is a player side thing. But when they're on someone, and when you're fighting someone that has them, all of a sudden, they are now universal, right? Everyone needs to deal with them at some point in time. So that aspect needs to be controlled and enjoyable. Sorry, I'm like half focusing on the speedrun and half just rambling. I apologize. Anyone who's watching the speedrun later for the speedrun purpose will be like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Okay, I don't need to ring press anymore, so I can be a little more... Okay. Yeah. So, what I was trying to get at was, with 4 points, where we do that system, with the rigid, not rigid, right? Organic, not organic, I think that can work incredibly well if that's it. If there's no bonuses, there's no, oh, you get +1 for fluting, oh, +1 for gambeson, oh, you get, like, craftsmanship is another big thing. People will probably fight us to the death if we try to remove the bonus for craftsmanship because they feel like we're stealing something that they are owed, right? It's like, they learned how to craft well, they deserve, right, some sort of benefit, right? And I keep telling people, it's like, guys, look at our weapon system, look at shields, right? You don't, your shield doesn't get +1 hit, you know, from shield crushing if you make a pretty shield, right? Your weapons don't do +1 damage if you make a pretty weapon, right? But it got thrown into the armor thing because the people created a system, you know, came from another game where armor was all super historical and whatnot, and that was the way they thought they could encourage that kind of stuff, right? Because the people that made it thought this is important. And am I biased in being one of the people who think it's not important? Probably, right? But I feel like of everyone in Amtgard right now, I have probably spent the most time thinking about the game as a bigger picture and as a whole than, you know, everyone else. You know, I've thought about it immensely when we were designing Phoenix League, right? I think about it constantly as a Reeve, right? That's just the angle that I've always been looking at Amtgard. I am not a super competitive player, so I'm not trying to sit there and min-max and go like, you know, what's what's mine is mine. Don't take it away. I want my cake and eat it too, kind of thing. Right? The competitive players are the hardest part to deal with because they're the ones that go, Druid is broken. You shouldn't have made it broken. If you want to fix it, buff the other classes. Right? And that's just not the way... You know, that's just not the way to do it. The problem I've noticed is that the armor bonus, armor looks good bonus, has become the armor doesn't look shit bonus, right? If you make armor, because armor itself is so rare, if you show up with a generic piece of leather armor, right? 23 seconds? How did I save 23 seconds on this stage? If you show up with a generic piece of leather armor, right? Most people are going to be like, oh my god, that looks amazing. Because we're just not used to seeing armor, right? I think when it comes to the armor visual, we need to start by getting everyone wearing armor, period. Right? And then we go from there. Oh, I don't need to get this. Another thing we have that we run into that this is going to take some doing, is, how do we deal with the weather issue? And this is a question that I've kind of reached a couple times, but we haven't really come up with an answer with. But like in the southern places, right, the armor issue is it's too hot to wear armor. So we just don't wear armor, right? And that's why armor is broken. In the northern places where there's more snow than there is sweltering heat, right, the issue is, if I'm a caster and I'm wearing something that's quilted so I can look, period, right, but stay warm, that counts as armor and therefore I can't get magic enchantments, right? Or just the general confusion game of, if I'm wearing something to get warm, I get fucked, right? Because it might look like armor. So, let me just make sure I start this right. So I could actually TB here. There was a suggested way to do armor where armor was required to have colored strips in each location in addition to the physical armor to be a visual of like what your armor value is. And the benefit to that would have been it would make proxying armor basically a no-brainer. You just don't wear the armor, you just keep the strips, right? So everyone would get accustomed to the strips. Alright, thanks for the chat. Take care, enjoy the nighting. Bye! That little bit. Yo, thank you for that Prime Gaming sub. We can dance our way into a PB, hopefully. Take care.
Hey.
Hey. I think we got it. I think we got it. Hey, there we go. Got a 16-second PB. Only took 3 tries. Awesome. So for any verifier watching this later, the actual running calibration and the strength calibration is at the start of this stream, which should be linked below, either on speedrun.com or YouTube. Ooh.